So I got our shoes on, got my carry-on bag, the luggage is downstairs, and it's time to go to the UK. Taxi's here. It's very early, it's 4 AM. There's my luggage, there's the taxi. Let's go. So let's go. So here we are at Salzburg airport. Now I've just got to try and find where my flight is. I'm a little bit early, which is good. Now let's go and try and find my flight. So I finally found the Salzburg Business Lounge. Of course, for security reasons, I couldn't show you any check-in or security passing, but this was quite a nice little lounge. Now you're probably thinking, how did you fly business? Well, trust me, it wasn't expensive, and you'll see why soon. But I do have a nice little breakfast, a croissant, some yogurt and some water. But it was now time for us to leave. It was a nice little start to the day. I have been up since 2 AM. So if we go to try and find my first flight, this was the door for the business lounge. As you can see, it's sort of in the middle of nowhere. It was quite busy for a morning flight. And there is my plane in the background. We are flying Lufthansa, I think is how you say it. Up we go, and I did say I was flying business, but you can see why I did. It was only an extra €100, but it's not really a business flight. And I will show you my seat as I'm trying to locate it. And as you can see, it's 3 normal seats with the middle not allowing anyone to sit in it. So look, is it business? No, not really, but it was quite comfy. I had all 3 seats to myself, and it was almost ready for takeoff. So we're nice and comfy, we've hit the runway, it is now becoming real. I'm on my way to the UK. Quite nervous but excited, but let's say goodbye to Salzburg. So we safely touched down into Frankfurt, but now the mission was to find my next business lounge. We had a 2-hour layover, so I had some editing to do. Unfortunately, I went to the wrong lounge room, so I was back to the drawing board to try and find this hidden business lounge. And lo and behold, it was up a sneaky set of staircases. And this staircase just kept going and going. Now, compared to Salzburg, this was a much bigger lounge. This place was huge, but I was ready to eat something and do some editing. And just like that, we're off onto our next flight. We are flying business again, same setup as the Salzburg flight, 2 chairs per row with a nice little feed. We had to wait a little bit. We had a plane landing, which was cool to capture, but then we hit the runway, we were off, and it was finally time to say goodbye to Frankfurt. We're on our way to the UK. So we landed safely into the UK. Here is my first glimpse of the outside world. I'm excited, I'm heading for the exit, and I know my good mate Pete from Track Fans was going to be greeting me with a marching band, celebrations. So I'm having a bit of trouble finding Pete. Unfortunately, I've got no phone connection. He doesn't know where I am. I don't know where he is. So yeah, wish me luck.
A few minutes later, longer than a few minutes later, more moments later.
I'm looking for Pete. I'm looking for Pete, anyone? Look at that.
Hey brother.
Wow.
How you doing?
And what felt like an eternity, we're finally on the road on the M25, which is the UK car park. I could smell Scalextric getting closer, and lo and behold, we were home. The home of Hornby's. Now, to say Pete and I was excited is an understatement. We couldn't wait to get out of the car and get started. So without further ado, welcome to Hornby Scalextric. So we kick off our tour with a track that you might be familiar with on social media. You'll see the social media team at Scalextric taking photos of upcoming cars, newly released cars, and this was at the back of the factory. Now, of course, we can't show you everything due to licensing and agreements with Scalextric, but we could show you a lot. And here is a cafe with a toy shop attached, or should I say, a toy shop with a cafe attached. Now, I'm focusing solely on all the Scalextric items that were on sale. They had all your latest cars sitting there ready for the taking. This is open to the public. It was really cool to see. And if you are into trains and any of the other Hornby brands, this shop was chocked to the rafters with all your favorites. But again, we are focusing solely on the slot car items. Now, I was happy to see some of the budget run stuff, which you can see in the blister pack on your right. They are really cool cars if you want to have kids getting into club racing or a club itself. I do enjoy those cars. They're very strong and perform well. Moving on down to some more of the tracks. We've got some micro Scalextric. We've got some Scalextric for beginners, some of the new retro art boxes. I was truly blown away how well stocked their little shop was, which was connected to the Hornby's factory. Now, I did want to zoom in on these two micro Scalextric, the Lambo and the Porsche. They were brand newly released as I was there, and so was the 007. So they're probably available now, but whilst I was there, they were definitely very new. And some of the Golf range neatly stacked, and I just picked out a few favorites to show whilst we're looking around. And then down to some of the latest items that we're getting to see come out, some of the new Legends series or the World Championship series. Of course, I couldn't go past a couple of Porsches or two to show off. But I was very impressed with the amount of stock on offer for the public to come and purchase at a reasonably good price. Of course, you're not paying postage because you're attending yourself. They did have a cool little display on the counter. We've got some more F1 cars, the Tyrrell, the Camel. It was really cool to see. But moving on to the resin kits, the latest kits. If you haven't seen these already, they are now available. But we did find a discount wall, and some of these prices were pretty good. And some of the cars, including those white kits, were really good to find. They are good to paint your own cars. We've got some blue box series. We've got some super slot in there, if you can see in the background, but these are quite rare to find in Europe. Super slot double sets on special. Now, that is the European brother of Scalextric, so they should not have any super slot there. And the host with the most who was walking us around was also surprised to see them. Now, moving on to the museum that is attached to the shop itself and Hornby's. This is open to the public, a small fee to get in and have a look around. I was blown away by some of the old box art. I am a huge box art fan, so I had to take a double look. If you are into trains, there's lots of trains on display with action buttons. As you can see, we're going past, all pressing them like mad little kids. Of course, Pete trying to catch some action. I did try and get him to go inside the bubble so I can get a shot of him looking at the trains through the bubble, but he was too busy filming. But really cool for the kids to see. Moving on to another train set. Now, I know this is not slot cars, but it was pretty impressive. This is the nighttime set. It was really hard to capture with the camera because it was so dark, but it was great to see some of the lights turned on and the scenery in action. And it was a beautiful looking train set. And if I'm being honest, I'm pretty happy to look at trains. Onto the slot car display, some 1950s. I'm a huge collector, and some of this stuff was really cool to see in timestamps. So that's your 1950s. Now on to the 1960s. Again, just a handful of items that were available at the time. I was blown away by some of the track. Again, I'm a huge collector of anything old school vintage. 1990s, now we're talking my era. Some of these items I do have in my collection, some are most definitely not, but really cool to see these little displays in the museum. Of course, a couple of winners in the front there. I like some of the plastic kits. I do have some of those now. And of course the Goodyear Bridge in grey. I do have the yellow. Onto the 2000s. And this is a snippet of some of the stuff you can see in the museum itself. We have the motorbikes, stay tuned, I do have a good video come up about them very soon. Lamborghini, and down to some other goodies, the Land Rover, the Mustang, and back to the bikes. And then some of the racing kits. Onto the 2010s. We're getting a bit newer now, so this might be familiar to some of the newer collectors. Did love that gold that was in the lobby. I could not film the lobby. There was some stuff in there that we probably shouldn't have seen. I won't show you any pics, but for you Aussies out there, we're in good hands when it comes to the VL. Holden. And then Scalextric today, which is up to some of the current stuff. Again, good to see this all organised in year. And these will change over time, of course. It will be 2020s soon, I guess. The TV and film, can't go past the TV and film. I love this set. Onto the Batman, which I've unfortunately missed out on. The Tumbler and the Batmobile and the Joker Porsche. I do have the Joker Porsche, but I went off the Ninja Turtles in the background, which I did see at the UK festival. Did I grab them? No, I didn't. And a really cool display of cars going down a spiral setup. Would have been good to see if these could actually go up and down on their own, but there was a static display and there was two of these in a cylinder-shaped display. On to some more goodies. You know I'm a Porsche fan, so I had to look at some of the old molds. Yes, this is how they used to make the cars. We've got some big old wooden molds, down to some very rare items, your crystal cars in the background, some anniversary minis. Into the back we've got the fluorescent Ferraris, and that case I've never seen before with the Ford. I think it was a Ford inside. Onto some more protos. It's good to see some protos on display, some Audis. Could I grab them? No, I wanted to. A little bit of a story there. Now I didn't want to film too much of everything because I want you to be able to go there yourself and read and have a look. So there's a lot of cool stuff on display, and as you can see, some product information, which I do invite you to go and visit the little museum. And onto a nice little display of the Jag itself and some of the older race cars as well. Really cool to see, made in 1966. Now I do like this display, and this is giving me an idea of some of my broken cars. Maybe I should spread them out onto a board. But there's some more ideas of how these cars were made back in the day, some Renaults. Again, a nice little parts wall. And then some more protos, which, I just wish I could get my hands on them. And then onto some beautiful displays. I'm a huge fan of box art, and it was cool seeing these displays within inside the museum itself. It was full of information, really cool to go see. I highly invite, if you are in the UK, to go and have a look. It is really, really cool. Onto some of the racing trucks, and I was also looking at this thinking, what else can I find that I can purchase, on Fleabay, on the markets? And I was trying to tick off anything that I didn't have that I do want to find at the UK Slot Fest. So this was a wealth of information when it came to Scalextric cars. And down the bottom, some of the box art for some of the sets that they released. Again, I'm a huge fan of box art, and I think the older the box, the better it looked. And of course, we couldn't go without Pete dressed in his finest Scalextric dress. Inside the museum itself, it had a working track. Now, we weren't racing on any of these because there was public people around, but it was cool to see that if you're wanting to have a bit of a crack at a track, as you can see, we had the host do a couple of flying laps for us, which I captured a little bit of that. So if you do want to have a race with inside the museum, there's a track for you. So moving on to some of the other items that Scalextric or Hornby sell. But first we wanted to look at some of the micro sets, because I'm a big fan of the smaller scales. But then we did start moving on after here to some of the other brands that were on display. And again, it was a very, very cool museum. Now moving into how they used to make the cars, this is the older way of making slot cars. We do have now a 3D printer in the background, which we are used to that. But there's also some really old machinery showing off how they used to do a lot of their work prior to today's technology, whether that's trains or some of their other kits. it was just cool to see. And again, another stunning train set on display for us to enjoy, with hours and hours of scenery on these. Hours of scenery. Now this track was given to Scalextric not so long ago. I believe it was a couple of years ago. It was donated to Scalextric. It was built in a gentleman's home with all the scenery done, and instead of throwing it out, he donated it to the museum. It was a stunning track. Again, we didn't race on any of this due to it being in the museum itself, but I did want to capture some of the gentleman's work that he would have done prior to giving it to Scalextric, which I wish I was around to say I'll take it. But what a good looking track. I'm a big fan of how they finished it off. I'm very lucky for Scalextric to have this, and I know they were very, very thankful for having it. Now let me know in the comments, should we get Scalextric to do some of their product reviews on this track? I think it would be beautiful for some backdrops, and you might see some cars that might be very familiar to you sitting in the background. So then we moved on to the rest of the museum, which shows off a lot of the other items that Hornby does produce, being Corgi. I'm a huge diecast car collector, and this was just as impressive. And I thought, why not add it into the video itself, because it was vehicle related and absolutely stunning. Some of these toys on display were absolutely epic. Again, we've got the 1970s. And some of these would be very, very rare, including that, as you can see, I zoomed in on it, the old Corgi Lotus car and trailer. Absolutely incredible. And apologies for the camera work, it was very dark in there for a lens, so I was doing my best to try and capture it with a zoom in. Some box Corgis. So again, if you're into die-cast cars, not just slot cars, trains, there is a display there for you, but I thought this just ticked the box for all of us. With a very special tour at the end of this museum, which I was blown away with, so stay tuned for that. And I believe they're always on the lookout for older items that they don't have in stock anymore. So if you do have a collection, reach out to Hornby and see if they may want to add that to their museum. It'd be great to see this museum really chockers full of goodies from today and yesteryear. So now if you didn't know, Hornby does Corgi. It was great to see some of their cars on display. Moving on to some of the bigger, older toys. Yes, these were very, very old, and I will call these vintage. Some were tin. It was incredible to see. But this is what I want to show you, the Pocher display. I was absolutely blown away. I did not know Hornby created these stunning models. Please in the comments let me know if you do. I guess if you're in the UK you would. But this room itself was a museum of goodness. And these are available, not the old stuff, but they do still create newer models, which I will show you at the end of the tour. But the detail on these are absolutely magnificent and very well displayed. Now I think I'm saying it correctly, it's Pocher. I think it was P-O-R-C-H-E-R. And the finish on these are incredible. Now I believe they are die-cast / plastic kits already painted. It's just a big jigsaw puzzle for you to put them together. Once they're done, as you can see by the finish and fit of these, they are incredible. You're probably thinking, how expensive are they? Well, there is a newer version that they've just released, which I'll show you in a tick, and it's around about £900, which I think is very cheap for a large-scale model. Now moving on to some of our favourites, mine and Pete's, we've got the Ferrari F40, beautiful Porsche, I'm a Porsche man. It's another beautiful yellow Ferrari F40. And this one deserved a close-up for sure, because it was well finished. Well finished. opening doors, hoods, bonnets. Then onto a beautiful Lamborghini Roadster. And again, I did not know Hornby made massive model cars. Onto some of the current supercars, some Lamborghinis. Making sure to grab as much detail in the video as we could. A nice shot of the Aventador engine, and for you bike lovers, you have this stunning Ducati. It was a monster. Again, full kit, you build it up, it's pre-painted, just one big jigsaw puzzle. And to finish off the Pocher display room, some final touches of detail on the Ducati. But here is the latest Pocher 1/8 scale, Lotus 72D, under £800, definitely worth its money. But this is the end of our video. Thank you very much to Scalextric for allowing us to visit. Of course, we would love to show you more, but there was a lot of R&D in rooms that we could not film. So a massive thank you from myself and Pete to the viewers, and to Scalextric for allowing us to come. But as always, be safe. Take care, support your local. Ciao.